Hey, Dave from Stuff Outdoor Dad's like here again talking about commuter bikes, this time the accessories. This is part of a three-part series. We talked about this awesome Marin Sausalito E1 bike. That's one review. This is the accessory review. Then we're going to talk about commuter clothing. I'm sort of dressed partially to ride now, but not all the way. You'll have to see what's different with my ride gear in that review. And then maybe some other stuff. I think I'm going to talk about this awesome Topeak MTX system in a separate review because I'm so happy with it. So I've been commuting for about 2.5 years by bike, and I love it. For someone with 2 small kids, it's a great way for me to get exercise, get out, feel good, and not really negatively impact my family life by needing to go to the gym or anything else. I feel better, I'm more patient, I think I'm more happy and productive at work. If productivity at work is your thing, I guess it is. I want to do a good job at work. But I think the advantages of bike commuting, if you live close enough to do it, I mean, it's just innumerable. There's so many. If you talk about, like, if you're a finance guy and you want to do like the whole fire thing, Mr. Money Mustache, this is like one of his big things. It's like number one is like sell your house, move so that you're within biking distance to work. That's like his first thing out of the get-go. I still own a car, so sometimes I probably drive my car to work 10 times a year if, say, there's like really foul weather or I'm tired and, you know, whatever. But 10 times out of a whole year, that's not too bad. And so there's still that car cost, but I'm driving that much less. So if I think about the cost of entry with this, I don't think it's terrible, especially if it's a bike that you might use for pleasure on the side. And again, that cost is hard to justify. But if you were to add in maybe just commuting cost in your car at like 50 cents a mile, which is what the government normally reimburses you for, it adds up pretty quick. And then if you think about like, oh, well, now I don't need a gym membership because I'm riding to work 3 to 5 times a week. And if you think about time savings, I don't need to go from work to the gym and then home. My wife isn't annoyed at me or my spouse isn't annoyed at me because I now am going to the gym and I'm not getting home to help with the kids, or now I'm leaving after dinner to go to the gym or whatever. This way, I wake up about 20 minutes earlier than I would have woken up to go to work, and then I'm home about maybe 10 or 15 minutes later than I would have been if I'd been driving. So awesome. All of it's awesome. So let's talk about what I changed and why. So probably the first thing is, again, I'm riding year-round in all conditions. Snow, rain, whatever, I'm trying to get on my bike. I ride down to normally about single digits. So if it's, you know, less than 10 degrees, I'm going to consider driving my car. I've driven or ridden my bike down to 0, and it actually was fine. There was no wind. It was actually really pretty, but, you know, that's kind of my line. The battery on this bike is only rated down to, I think, about the teens for temperature. It's worked for me every time I've ridden it, but that's what it claims on the website, so I'm not sure. But I'll get back to you if I run into problems with that. This thing is an all-weather machine. Right now it's set up in winter mode because it's December here in New Hampshire. And so the first thing, probably the most important thing, is studded snow tires. So whatever you can get, I don't think it really matters which studded snow tires you go with. I'm going to have to think about what these are while I talk because I didn't look this up beforehand. So they might see like a little cut and then me coming back here. Let's see. Okay, I looked. They're 45th North Gravidol tires. They were probably around $60 a tire. They had different options for the studs. You either can get a stud that points up or a sort of a concave stud that has more grip. These are sort of the cheaper pointing up studs, and I think they've worked great. I had different studded snow tires on my mountain bike. That was a 26-inch tire, and it was a Marathon. Ooh, I don't know. I have to think what that was, but that tire worked very well also, and I had no issues with it. The problem with this bike specifically is that this is a 650B, and there are not a lot of studded snow tires in that size. 700C tires, fine. 26-inch tires, there's a ton, but with this, I was kind of limited to this particular tire. This is a 650 by 38, so it's a little narrower than the tires that I run in the summer, which are, I think, a 45 or 48 C tire. So 50C is an inch, I think, if my memory serves me correctly. So that can't be right. It's got to be an inch and a half. So these are a little bit, in between there. But these work really well. I think for price, they're good. The only disadvantage of this particular tire is it just doesn't float that well on top of snow. Snow tires are really supposed to dig in, so if you have just like a thin layer of snow, it kind of digs down to hopefully the asphalt surface below. But if there's more snow and it's slushy, you're just sliding around like crazy. They can't get grip. Even with the motor, which is helpful in the snow to try to get a little bit more traction, they're kind of out of their element there. And then I'm normally getting off of the rail trail, which is normally plowed last where I live, and getting onto a main road to complete the ride. But it still gets me from point A to point B. The second thing that was actually the first addition, because I bought this bike in the summer, was full fenders. Now, I cannot recommend full fenders enough. I've had just a small fender, like a fork fender, on my mountain bike when I use that as a commuter, and then you can get fenders that come off the back. Frankly, having a bag here with a rack does help with the rain in the back, but the front fender, you're really exposed. And there's a lot of water that gets whipped off of the wheels when it's raining. So having full fenders is great. In the snow, it's great as well. These are Planet Bike Cascadia 650 ALUX, so like the aluminum fender. You could go with something else. I think the aluminum looks a little nicer. They've held up very well, and they have a little bit more strength. I think the plastic would have a tendency to probably have broken by now. One of the limitations for my tire size was also the width of these fenders. For the 650, I think the fattest that the fenders go is 60C, and I think they want it to be 10 millimeters wider than your tire. So a 60C ALUX fender accommodates up to a 50C tire. And so that's kind of what the options were. And again, that 650B tire size for the studded snow tire was a little bit limited in terms was what was available for studded snow tires. So that's sort of the front. The next thing you're going to see are these pogies or bar mitt, that's sort of the Kleenex of the brand. These are wolf tooth, and this is what all this stuff was recommended by my local bike shop. So I just went in and said, what full fender should I get? And they said, you want the Planet Bike Cascadia ALUX. And I said, great. And I said, what pogie should I get? And they said, these are the wolf tooth ones that we use. They do a lot of fat biking in my area, so this was something that they were really familiar with. I think probably the biggest feature about these that I like is this cuff. So it pops up and it zips up on the inside. So when it's really cold, this is how I ride them. And then the rest of the time I ride them folded down. And this allows my hands to get in and out of the bars a little bit easier, especially for turn signaling or whatever. They also have a zipper on the front here so that you can, if you're getting hot, you can cool yourself down. And then they snap here with little snap, and then at the end they have a bar plug that works well. There's also some reflective piping, which I love. I really want to be very well seen when I'm riding, so this works well. I have a Night Rider light here. This is a 650 lumen light. I'll talk about these a little bit with my other review of like what I wear, but I'll talk about it a little bit now too. So these work well. This is like, it's metal. This casing is I find that it holds up well. It lights up. It has 3 different lighting modes, and then it's blue when the battery is full or like down to 20%, and then it turns red when it's dying. And then it just firm press to pull them off. This is just micro USB charger. So I have a micro USB charger at work, and if something starts getting red on my way to work, then I just charge it there. If it's good to go and blue, I know I'm good, and then I can charge it when I get home. I also put different grips on. I use an ergon grip that's got sort of more pad here, just to make things more comfortable. I think it's the GC1 BioCork. A little bit on the pricey side, but grips are like socks, man. I mean, your feet feel happy, your hands feel happy, you're gonna feel happy. I also have these guys, which I got like off some Instagram, came from China thing, but they're just reflective around on my spokes to really make it light up. It looks like something a kid would spin around at July 4th, and really makes me visible from the side when I'm riding. And that's my whole goal, is visibility. I'm partially dressed to ride now. I'll show you sort of my additions in that other video, and you can see that I want to be well lit, but that's one of the things that I like. I did swap the saddle out. This is a WTB Volt saddle. Pretty cheap, pretty comfortable, could be wider, could be narrower. It's kind of the perfect sort of medium. There is a bell that comes with the bike. It's just an Incredible bell. And then my father-in-law got me this little fancier bell that's a little narrower. To be honest, I don't know the name. I hope he's not watching this video, but it is good. It's a nice bell. It's very sleek and streamlined. It blends in. Look out there. There's good bell options. I'll put something in the description though. Local mountain biking chapter. I'm a supporter, so I get a little thing, so that's great. Oh, pedals. So these are Shimano pedals. They have an SPD on one side and a flat pedal on the other side. So if I'm going to the grocery store just to get groceries real quick, it's right down the hill. I don't need to put on bike shoes. It's great, but the rest of the time I ride with SPDs, even in the winter, because it's more efficient. There's a lot of discussion about whether or not I should just be riding flat pedals in the winter from a safety perspective. Most of my ride I feel pretty safe on. If I don't, then I kind of just ride unclipped. But my ride's far enough, 7.5 miles. It takes me about 30 minutes. I think it would be a big efficiency impact if I didn't have SPDs on, or just clipless pedals. All right, then we get to this bad boy. This thing is a Topek MTX rack and bag. So for a while I was riding with a messenger bag on my back. One, because I thought it looked cool, but what quickly was not cool was the huge sweat stain that was on my back where my messenger bag was. I could get everything that I needed to carry to and from work with that, but it was just really uncomfortable. And they make a bunch of versions of this MTX system. So originally I had it on my mountain bike and I had it on this road bike, and the road bike didn't have any spots for rack attachments. So they have just a rack that comes off your seat post, and that's what I used. You need to really crank that sucker down, but once you do, it works well, and it acts kind of also like a rear fender, which is nice. You can take it on and off, which is also helpful. But now that I got this set up where I have rack mounts, the actual rack is much better. This one's got a spring attachment. I'll take this guy off here to show you. So this is the beauty of it. It slides on and off. And so I can just take it into work like this, and I have all my stuff ready to go, and I don't have something in my bag the whole time. This also has this spring attachment that you can, I guess, like hold a jacket or something there. Frankly, I shouldn't have gotten that. Everything else about this is great. This is a disc rack, so it's set up for disc brakes. I can't remember what series it is. Works awesome. I think this is just added weight that doesn't really serve any additional function, so not that great. And then on the back of here, I have one of two rear lights that I use. This is another Night Rider light. It also uses a micro USB charging cable. There's a good dust flap on the bottom. So I have one here, and then I have one on the back of my helmet. These things are good. The only thing is, just like the front light, they light up blue, and then if they're dying, they light up red. Once they're red, they only work for like another 20 minutes depending on the flash mode. So if you only have one, you can start them blue on your ride to work and get to work and realize that they've died on the way, and you haven't been lit to the rear very well at all. So I used a sort of a redundant system, so I have two, so if one dies, I can't see it when I'm riding, so it can work differently. They do have a good length of charge though, and they have a bunch of different solid and flash modes to work with. So I think the Night Rider series of lights works well. There's a bunch of different lights out there. There's some that like have flash patterns and you can use them with turn signals. These are pretty good and they're not that expensive. And once again, that's what my local bike shop had and that's what they recommended, so I did it. I'm just going to show you how easy this thing is to put this guy back on here. So good. I do just take this and strap it around here, and then I have a binder clip like you get from Staples just to hold this. I have had just once, and it was totally my fault, on my last seat post rack, my bag fell off and I didn't notice it on my ride home. And I got home and was like, whoops, where's that bag? And I had to retrace my steps. So now I just use this as another layer of protection. And then I really like having the shoulder strap to take it in, to and from work. So this works well like this. Binder clip, done. And then of course, water bottle. I think this is probably frozen. Oh, no, it's not frozen, but it is empty. One of the beauties of the e-bike is I don't go through as much water. So I try to have a full water bottle there. If something were to happen, I'm stuck outside, it'd be really nice to have water available with me. But the e-bike sort of limits the need for that. In the summer, definitely drink more water. Now that I know it's empty, I'm gonna fill it up. I think that's it. Pretty well equipped to start out with, but with just some small additions, this bike really turns into a 4-season commuting machine. So Dave, Stuff Outdoor Dads Like, coming back to you with this other review. Check out the other videos in this series if you liked what I talked about here, and I'll talk about this bag and how awesome it is separately so you get a little bit better idea. Okay, see you later.